19 minutes from now, both engines on this airplane will be dead. Its two pilots will be gliding through total darkness, searching for anywhere to land. Right now, they are laughing. There is no one else on this airplane to laugh with them. October 14th, 2004. Little Rock, Arkansas, just after 9 at night. Pinnacle Airlines Flight 3701 was what pilots call a repositioning flight. No passengers, no cargo. Just an empty regional jet being flown to where it was needed next. In the cockpit sat a 31-year-old captain, a flight instructor with almost 7,000 hours in the air. Beside him, a 23-year-old first officer, still new to this particular jet. The captain had a reputation as a strong stick-and-rudder pilot, sharp hands, fast instincts. But colleagues also remembered him as someone who trusted his own judgment over the checklist in front of him. With no passengers to answer to, an empty repositioning flight could feel like the loosest hours of the job. Some pilots at this airline had turned that looseness into a private game. They called it unofficially the 410 Club. The rule was simple: take your jet all the way up to 41,000 feet, its absolute limit, and you were in. It wasn't written down anywhere. No supervisor had signed off on it. It just existed quietly between flights. Before the cockpit recorder even started, the two men were already testing the airplane. Sharp climbs pulling nearly 2 Gs. Switching seats at 15,000 feet, mid-flight. Then the captain radioed air traffic control and asked for something unusual. Clearance to 41,000 feet. Approved. "Man, we can do it," said the first officer. 41 it. 40,000, baby, the captain answered. At 41,000 feet, the air is a third as dense as at sea level. A jet that thin has almost no margin, fly too slow, and the engines can't produce enough lift to hold the nose up. Pilots call the danger zone up there the backside of the power curve. Below a certain speed, pulling the nose up doesn't climb the airplane anymore. It just burns more fuel to go slower. As the aircraft climbed, its speed kept bleeding away, and the autopilot kept pitching the nose higher to compensate. It was a feedback loop with only one ending. By the time they leveled at 41,000 feet, their airspeed had fallen to 163 knots, nearly 100 knots under where it needed to be. A controller radioed, surprised. "I've never seen you guys up at 41 there." "Yeah," the captain replied, "we don't have any passengers on board, so we decided to have a little
Tower,
fun."
we are ready for...
The controller laughed along. There was no reason yet to think anything was wrong. Neither pilot yet understood that the airplane was already past what it could hold. "Want anything to drink?" the captain asked. The first officer asked for a Pepsi. The captain got up to get it. Standard procedure required someone stay strapped in and flying. "It ain't speeding up worth shit," the first officer said, watching the airspeed indicator. The captain looked at the nose of the aircraft. "This nose, look at how nose high we are." The stick shaker fired, a violent warning that the wings were about to stop producing lift. It fired again, then a third time. Each time, the automatic stick pusher tried to force the nose down to break the stall. Each time, the first officer manually overrode it, pulling back against the safety system built to save them. The airplane's nose pitched to 29 degrees. It rolled 82 degrees to the left. Both engines lost airflow through their intakes and flamed out. At 41,000 feet, in total darkness, the cockpit went almost silent. "We don't have any engines," the first officer said. "You've got to be kidding me," the captain answered. There was a checklist in the manual for exactly this. Neither man had ever practiced it above 10,000 feet. Most pilots go their entire careers without ever losing an engine. Losing two, at once, at the edge of the atmosphere, was almost unheard of. What neither pilot knew yet was that the engines weren't just off. They were seizing. At extreme altitude and cold, a flamed-out engine's parts cool at wildly different rates. A seal around the turbine's core contracts faster than the metal around it, clamping down, locking the core solid. Engineers call it core lock. It doesn't just stop the engine. It can make it unrestartable. It had happened before, rarely to other jets at extreme altitude. Almost none of those pilots had known to expect it either. The only way to prevent it is to keep enough air rushing through the intake to keep the core spinning. Windmilling. That meant diving fast enough to hold at least 240 knots, ideally 300. Instead, their airspeed sagged under 200. 4 times, they tried to restart an engine. 4 times, nothing happened. Then the captain radioed air traffic control and told them only 1 engine had failed. It wasn't true. Both were dead. That single lie meant controllers were now solving the wrong emergency, ruling out nearby airports a 2-engine-out aircraft badly needed. At the moment the engines died, there had been at least 6 airports within gliding distance. One by one, as the wrong emergency was radioed in, most of them stopped being an option. 6 miles from a runway, with the glide ratio of a brick, they were running out of both altitude and time. The jet dropped through 29,000 feet, then 20,000, then 10,000, silent except for wind over the fuselage. Below them, dark farmland, then the scattered lights of a small Missouri city. For a moment, they could see runway lights in the distance, just not close enough. A ground warning system began calling out, "Too low gear." "Let's keep the gear up," the captain said. "I don't want to go into houses here." "Damn, road right there," the first officer called, spotting a strip of pavement in the dark. It wasn't a runway. It was the only flat, open space they could find in time. "Turn to your left, turn to your left." The left wing clipped a treetop. The aircraft rolled hard, inverted, and came down in a residential neighborhood on Hutton Lane, Jefferson City, Missouri. It tore through 6 backyards in the dark. By some margin of luck, it struck not one single house. Both pilots were killed instantly. On the ground, no one was hurt. Investigators pulled the cockpit voice recorder from the wreckage the next morning. What they heard wasn't a story of mechanical failure. It was a story of 2 men who chose repeatedly to break the rules meant to keep them alive. The NTSB's language was blunt: unprofessional behavior, poor airmanship, thrill-seeking. The 410 Club turned out to be an open secret, a culture where empty flights meant no consequences. Pinnacle wasn't the only regional airline where repositioning flights had quietly become an off-the-books playground. Both pilots were later given the Darwin Award for a mistake that removed them from the gene pool, but the airline's response went further than a punchline. Pinnacle rewrote its dual-engine failure checklist to spell out exactly what speed keeps an engine core from locking. Simulators were updated to train pilots on stalls and engine failures at altitudes they'd never practiced before, and flight recorders began quietly flagging any crew that pushed a jet to its limits without a reason to. Regulators pushed similar monitoring across the wider regional airline industry in the years that followed. Nothing about this crash was caused by weather, or metal fatigue, or a part that failed. Every ordinary, boring flight you've ever taken depended on someone, somewhere, following a checklist exactly like this one. 2 men alone in an empty airplane decided the rules didn't apply to them for one night. It took less than 20 minutes to prove they did. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. These videos take real work to research and bring to life. If you'd like to see more, consider subscribing. This has been Cataclysm History, and I'll see you in the next one.